Last week, it was the number 1 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. This week at home, it's the number 2 ranked Hoosiers of Indiana. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 11 of the Straight from the Crest podcast.
Welcome to the Straight from the Crest podcast.
Welcome back to Season 5, Episode 11 of the Straight from the Crest podcast. I'm your host, Michael David Kresovich. In today's episode of the Straight from the Crest podcast, we will be talking about Penn State's performance against Ohio State this past weekend, which was a 38-14 loss at the Shoe. Full slate of guests on deck today for this recap preview show as Garrett's back from his second bye week of the year, and Justin joins the show. So we will talk about what we saw from our perspective in Columbus and our major takeaways from the game, and we'll later pivot to the preview as Indiana comes to town and Penn State will have its first game in Beaver Stadium with a new head coach in over 12 seasons. First, I kind of want to bring Garrett on. Garrett wasn't on the show last week. Tough one for Penn State.
Yeah, there was some signs of life and fight in the first half, and any momentum was quickly snatched away by some just puzzling play calling. I'm very, very, very convinced that, clearly we have some talent. Guys are not being put in a very good position to be successful. You have some Penn State media personalities who are pretty tame with their criticism of play calling and scheme and stuff like that. T. Frank being one of them, and just like absolutely roasting some of the play calls. The reverse pass is, which I think he called it 342 double reverse jackass, I think was pretty funny, because the only read on that play was hoping the corner was just being a jackass and not playing his assignment in cover 3. I don't know what the philosophy is, play calling wise on either end of the field. We really came out and decided we're going to try to go one-on-one with JJ Smith. I don't understand that. And it took, him and Carnell Tate, having more combined yards than the last 4 seasons of Penn State recruited wide receivers have had total.
Wow.
Don't have a lot of good to say. Watched the game, watched every minute of it. I had the mentality of like, I am going to sit through this and feel this so that when we do have a chance to win a national championship, I can say that I went through the dark period and didn't bail. But it is difficult to watch, not because the guys and the talent aren't good. It is they are just so poorly coached at every position. Love Terry Smith. He needs to stay on with whoever the next staff is. He's trying his hardest. The coordinators, the rest of the group can go for as far as I'm concerned. Not everybody, but some of the guys who are getting paid a ton of money to be there and make decisions like, going press coverage and one-on-one against, Jeremiah Smith, and then running double reverses as soon as the offense gets momentum. Those guys will be happy to not see them next year.
Beck, Penn State was in the first half. They scored the first touchdown of the season against Ohio State in the first half. Prior to this game, Ohio State didn't allow a first half touchdown. Penn State got a turnover in the first half, and going into the half, they're down 3, and then bang, the talent shows up. Penn State looks depleted. They go on to get outscored 21-0 in the second half. What do you think went wrong?
So it didn't feel like a 3-point game at half watching it. It felt like we were getting soundly beat. And by, one play really where the guy gets held up and we get the ball back from him, we have a short field, we end up scoring and making it a 3-point game going into half. But I can tell you, like, on the field, it didn't feel like a 3-point game the whole half. It felt like we were getting manhandled. It felt like we couldn't do much of anything on both sides of the ball. So I think really the first half, a lot bounced our way. And the second half, like, those same sort of plays didn't. They just weren't made. So I feel like going into half, I felt like the more realistic score there, I thought it was going to be 24-7. I didn't think it was going to be 17-14. I fully expected when they got the ball back at the end of the half that they were going to go down and score. and make it 24-7. Now they fumble, we end up getting the ball and scoring as the half closes to make it look close, but it didn't feel that way. In the second half, I think we saw their talent, especially their explosiveness, on full display. I mean, there were times that we were double covering both Tate and Jeremiah Smith, and they were running by us. I mean, and there were also, like, we were down on the field. There were a couple of those deep balls, dude, that they got thrown, and I was like, no way he's getting to that. And they did every time. I don't think that he missed one. Those wide receivers were tracking down balls that were thrown so far out in front of them, making plays that, frankly, our guys have not made since, I don't know, Godwin, maybe, like Hamler. I don't know. It was we got to see the talent and their explosiveness on full display in the second half. And I think that the first half we got a couple of things bounce our way that made the game look closer than it felt.
Yeah, it was, to me, it was two different sports being played. From the eye test, the speed, the strength, and just the overall talent was night and day. Ohio State scored on 6 of 8 possessions in the ball game. Penn State punted or turned the ball over on 7 of 9 possessions, and that was really the story of the game. Ohio State was 6 for 9 on third down. Penn State was 8 for 15. Penn State was outgained by almost 300 yards. And to Jay's point there, Penn State was down 3 at half, but it never felt like it was that close. Ohio State was doing anything and everything they could, and Penn State was mustarding for a first down on 3rd and 4 every possession. It was, or 3rd and long most of the time, but it was just a bad day in Columbus in the second half. Gronk, 19 completions for 145 yards. We talked about Julian Sain's efficiency, just 3 incomplete passes. Both Jeremiah Smith and Garrett pointed to it. Smith and Carnell Tate both went over 100 yards. Max Clare, and it pays to listen to the show. You saw every time there was coverage on the outside, Max Clare had a drag route that went for plus yardage. Some bright spots from my perspective. I thought Cooper Cousins, who made his first career start, I thought Cooper Cousins played a great game overall up front for us. I thought we saw a new Nick Singleton, and hopefully Nick Singleton that we'll see the rest of the year. He looked rejuvenated. He's trying to obviously improve his draft stock and squeeze the rest of whatever he has left at Penn State out in these last 4 games. But Katron's now tied with Kajana Carter for 5th all-time with 34 touchdowns. Katron Allen and Gronowski from Iowa are the only 2 FBS players with a rushing touchdown in each of their games this season. And the biggest thing that I want to talk about, which has been a glaring problem all year, is the productivity of this wide receiver core. If you look at Penn State, their leading receiver was Nick Singleton with a team-high 28 yards. Embarrassing. There's obviously a talent gap between the Penn State wide receivers and corners, but Garrett, was it really that bad, or is Penn State's wideouts just really underperforming?
I mean, we had how many guys? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. I mean, 10 different guys catch balls. Yeah, and kind of expanding upon the point about, one of my takeaways was Ohio State's very talented, and I do think there are spots on this team that that we have talent. I think it's just criminal that we're not throwing the ball up to Hudson more. I mean, he has, and again, I am not making a general comparison here to Jahan Dotson, okay? But he has very sticky hands like Jahan Dotson. And he makes some grabs where he just goes out and snatches the ball. And why aren't we just throwing more back shoulder stuff to him? Why are we not just kind of throwing more jump balls, letting him use his athleticism? That's something that he was able to do at USC. So there's talent there. Grunk was if I'm not mistaken, a top 10 quarterback in the class, right? Clearly
he was a top 40 prospect in the class.
Right. So clearly has an arm, 19 of 28. He was 19 of 24 at one point. It's not awful on the road. There is some talent here. Singleton was put into a position to be successful out in space. Katron struggled after that first run. But with that being said, we only handed the ball to him twice in the second half. We didn't go to that kind of 2-tackle pitch, to the weak side or to the boundary.
Yeah,
Yeah, in
we
the
ran
second
very
half,
first play.
like,
Yeah.
had a nice like 20 yards per carry on that and just naturally go away from it. And so, is it as bad? Is the talent disparity as bad? No, I don't think so. I mean, at wide receiver, yes. I mean, Tate, Ennis, Smith, very good. Our running backs, both better than Bo Jackson and Peoples, but they run all over us. CJ Donaldson as well. And so, defensively, same sort of deal. Chaz Coleman's a freak. He's a monster. How he's not just the focal point all the time is just, it's not his call. It's not Grunk's call on the calls out there. It's not Singleton or Allen. It's just they're put in bad positions, man. Like this team is absolutely, at this point it's over, right? But like it is unbelievable that this team is 0-5 in conference and 3-5. It just is, it's unacceptable. As a whole. And so, no, I don't think the talent disparity is as bad, but I do think with that, it's not a question about on the sidelines who is better. Ohio State has done a good job. Patricia's a great coach. Day is solid. They've kind of found a way to become an Alabama over time right now with how they're just going about their business.
Well, it's not going to get much easier as Penn State welcomes in the number 2 ranked Indiana Hoosiers this year. This is a team that went 11-2 a year ago. They come in with a 9-0 record on the season with a win at Oregon and a blowout 53-point victory against Illinois. Illinois has scored 30-plus points in 7-9 games this year, and they haven't allowed more than 20 points all year. They allowed 20 points to Oregon. That's the most points they've given up. Beck, what's impressed you most about Indiana this year and how they're having another great year after their best year in school history a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, I said very similar things about Ohio State last year, but, the ability to come in and replicate the success that they had last year. I think a lot of people believed, myself included, that, things lined up really well for Indiana last year. They brought over a lot of like veteran guys from the JMU team that, Cignetti left, and a lot of those guys graduated, and the quarterback graduates, and they just find new guys. And so, I mean, it speaks volumes about Coach Cignetti. It speaks volumes about why we wanted him to come coach for Penn State, and obviously he signs that extension. I think they play a very dominant brand of football in a similar vein to Michigan, where they will control the time of possession and they'll move the ball efficiently. And I think that their defense has been stellar as well. So there's not a whole lot that you can point to that they are weak at. They obviously have a great win on the road in Eugene. Other than that, the schedule hasn't been super difficult. They did blow out Illinois, and then everybody thought Illinois was bad. So I don't know. Well, the schedule hasn't been super hard on them, but they do have 2 ranked wins, which is more than we can say about ourselves. So, yeah, I think consistent brand of football. Pretty cool what Cignetti's done over there, and it also provides a glimmer of hope for what could happen for us if we get the hire right next year.
Yeah, and you said it already. Head coach Kirk Cignetti, PA guy, did great things at JMU. Another piece he brought over is our offensive coordinator, Mike Shanahan, whippy old guy. He was actually a D1. He played tight end and wide out at Pitt. He was also a D1 basketball recruit and has a lot of PIAA football records. So it's a homecoming for him as well. Pennsylvania guy. In terms of personnel, their quarterback, the junior transfer from Miami, who was at Cal last year, Fernando Mendoza, 25 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, completing 72% of his passes. He's also a threat on the ground. He has 220 yards rushing with 4 scampers into the end zone. The running back, they have a 3-headed monster. Kalen Black's their leader with 619 yards, but Roman Hemby and Keelan Martin each have 5 apiece. On the outsides, they have Omar Cooper Jr. and Elijah Scratt, who both all have 40 catches, over 600 yards, and over 8 touchdowns each. On the defensive side, Louis Moore, defensive back, leads their team in total tackles and also has 5 interceptions. He's going to be a great NFL player one day. And Elijah Hardy and Isaiah Jones each have 5 sacks each. Garrett, pretty remarkable how Cignetti's kind of kept this unit intact. I mean, they brought back 9 offensive starters and 7 defensive starters, and it seems like they're poised for another at least playoff appearance.
they've done an unbelievable job, and Coach Signetti's done a great job of like, I don't know how to explain it, but just has like willed the program into this space where they had a very favorable schedule last year, and you can see how winning breeds winning, right? They really favorable schedule last year, and not only won games, but like was kicking the crap out of teams. So your team starts to believe in their abilities, goes out and has a tremendous regular season, and then a tough matchup on the road at Notre Dame, and you could tell that team they deserved to be in the playoff. They weren't there yet. They hadn't arrived. And there was a lot of people who were like, who's going to be this year's Indiana? Well, Indiana is this year's Indiana. They're back again, and with the same formula, just the ability to control, both sides of the ball, a much stronger line of scrimmage on both ends. I don't know how good the depth is overall, but they've stayed healthy and they get out to massive leads, and then they can throw their twos in, and they've built depth that way. And so, Mendoza's really solid. Surratt is really good. They don't throw, everybody would think, hey, they're just like kind of a pass happy, throw the ball. They only throw the ball, 40% of the time, 39% of the time. They're sixth in the country in rushing. They're first in the country in points per play, second in points a game, fourth in total yards. I mean, they're like a Mikey Kresovich LSU team in Dynasty right now. I mean, they're just, they do everything really, really well. There is no stat that they aren't top 10 in offensively. And the same goes for defensively too. So they're the real deal. They are arguably as good as Ohio State, not as talented as Ohio State, but they just play different. They try to overwhelm you. They kind of avalanche you, and they can score very quickly. They're very good in explosive plays. So it's very impressive. Beck said it a little bit earlier. We can only hope to get an attitude in here we're just going to go win and win by a lot of points and kick the crap out of teams. And hopefully that carries over into a big game where they were in a dogfight against Oregon, and they've said, well, you know what? We've won 17 of our last 18 games. Why aren't we going to go win this one? Who cares who it is? That's the attitude they have. It's been fun to watch, and it's hard not to root for them and Coach Signetti, given that he's an IUP guy. As a coach, his first head coaching job from Southwest PA. So won't be rooting for them Saturday, but rooting for them as the season goes on and as they get into the playoff.
Yeah, it's going to be Grunk's home debut, which feels like a month ago, the last time Penn State played a home game, which was that dreaded Saturday against Northwestern, which would happen to be James Franklin's last time strolling the east side sideline at Penn State. And it's also Terry Smith's debut as head coach for the Nittany Lions back at home. I expect a pretty big showing, I think, still for attendance wise. It's weird though, because I don't remember such a letdown in terms of the hype of the town right now with a ranked team coming to town. It's been quite a few years where it was different because Penn State could hide out in Iowa at Kinnick, or you could go to the Shoe, but they're playing at home now, and it's going to be different. But Penn State historically has dominated Indiana. In fact, they're 13-0 against the Hoosiers at Beaver Stadium. Indiana's never won at Penn State. Indiana's 2-25 all time against the Nittany Lions. And it's a new spot for Indiana to be in. Clearly, this is probably the first time Indiana's been a double-digit favorite. That line sitting at 14.5 right now. Justin, is Penn State going to be able to cover 2 touchdowns? Because you had them winning last week, 24-21 in the Shoe. So I anticipate you'd have them winning at home.
You know what? When we were sitting there, I think I looked at you and I said, Mikey, if we can win this game, we'll win the next one. And that would mean that we beat the number 1 ranked team back-to-back weeks. And we would have a legitimate case, assuming we beat everybody else, of being an 8-4 team sitting at the 12th seed. You beat the number 1 ranked team and the number 1 ranked team. There was a chance, like even at 8-4, maybe we get in. But Mikey, then I watched what happened to our team in the second half, and it became apparent that we were not going to beat the number 1 ranked team last week. And we are also not going to beat the number 1 ranked team, or I guess the number 2 ranked team this week. So yes, even though we're at home and I picked us last week, I am going to have to go with the Hoosiers. You said it's a new spot for them to be favored against Penn State, but it is not a new spot for them to be favored, right? They've been favored all year and they've been smoking teams all year. So unfortunately, I see more of the same coming. I know I picked Penn State to win. I was more worried about the last one getting super ugly than I am about Indiana. But maybe that's a bad thing. I, I, I don't know. Like I thought going into Ohio State, I picked Penn State to win. I thought there was a legitimate chance that it was like a 55-7 game.
Okay.
I don't feel that way about Indiana. I don't think we cover 14. I mean, give me like 30. I don't know, man. 31-10. 31-10 Hoosiers. We don't cover. And like caveat, immunity. If the 63-0 happens, it's not because I said I didn't think it could.
Do you know what caveat means?
Yes.
I don't think you need an immunity after caveat.
Well, I'm calling immunity like I'm not speaking it into existence.
Okay.
If it happens, it's not
he
my
doesn't.
fault.
He does
Okay.
not understand the
No,
immunity.
we'll talk after the show.
Yeah, yeah.
Garrett,
we'll have
over to you.
on that.
Penn State's in a good spot here. You back in the Nittany Lions with 14.5?
No, I'm not. This is, this could be a splattering. I'm really not trying to come on here and be negative, and it's not because of the guys. It's not because of the players we have. Like, I just have no confidence in the ability of Andy Kotelnicki to call a competent game offensively and keep the team in any sort of rhythm. And Lord knows what Jim Knowles is going to call on defense. And on top of that, credit, I mean, not credit to, but like a lot of humility, a lot of dialing back from Ryan Day and that Ohio State staff. They did kind of slow it down late, and they could have went and avalanched us. Indiana and Kurt Cignetti do not give a shit. They will go and they will avalanche us if they have the opportunity. If they can go into Beaver Stadium and go win a game 55-14, they're going to absolutely do it. Do I think it's going to be that bad? I really, really, really hope not. But Indiana's like, Ohio State is like a built commodity. They're not going to go out and do anything rash. They're not going to draw attention to themselves. They're just a machine. They're going to go in and they're just going to go take care of the business. Indiana's the Wild West, man. They will go in and they will just go smoke teams if they can. They don't care. Cignetti doesn't care if Penn State fans hate him down the road. It doesn't matter. I think it's going to be like 45-17, 45-14, something like that. Unfortunately, I think we'll just kind of, give up too many big plays. The twos will probably come in, and then they'll continue to keep throwing the ball. So I don't have a whole lot more to, I don't know if you want me on the show the rest of the year, because I don't have much positive to say other than if we talk about the coaching search, because this is just like, think of what this could have been, though. Like, that's what I'm thinking about. Is like, you could have went and played at number 1 Ohio State on the road, and then we could have all been, I could have flown up to State College. We would have all been a big game, 8-1 Penn State, ranked 4th against number 2 Indiana at home. Like, if we can't beat number 2 Indiana at home, then when are we ever going to beat a good team? And here we are in this alternate universe that is actually our real universe where we're this bad. Like, it's just, there's no positivity that's going to come out of me. So I'm going to be the opposite of Beck the rest of the season. So sorry.
Let me ask you this. If Penn State was fully healthy and their only loss of the season right now was to Ohio State and they beat Oregon, what do you think let's play guess that spread. What would the spread be here?
That's a good game. You're probably Penn State -5.5, I would think. -4.5. If Penn State had beaten Oregon, was ranked and lost last week to Ohio State 24-21 in a 1-2 game, they would have been 4th or 5th in the first college football playoff rankings. Indiana still doesn't have, all the credit of the Blue Bloods and the respect of Vegas. I think it probably would have been Penn State -4.5, -5.5. Do you not agree, Beck?
I mean, it's just like we're playing the hypothetical game. Yeah, I guess 8-1. Like, I can see us being favored in that, even being the lower ranked team. But like, our defense, even if everybody was healthy, is legitimately bad. Like, even everybody is healthy, and they are not good.
Beck, can I back you up here? 123rd and 85th in opponent rushing yards per game, 95th in opponent rushing yards per rush, yards per game 95th, 70 or 115th in opponent completion percentage, 122nd in interceptions for the year. There is not a good 90th in sack rate. Like, this is the worst defense. Is this the worst defense of our lifetime?
Yeah.
Is this the worst defense we've, even in the bad years, like
dude,
in
even
04, 03?
When we had like no star power on the defense, like 2016's defense was more fun.
It was a top 15 defense for sure.
Yeah.
I can't think of a worse defense we've ever had.
No. It's
even 02, 03 when we sucked, like the defense was unbelievable. It was even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sad.
So maybe we're favored, but I still to the question of would we be favored if we were 8-1? Maybe, but like our offense would have to be scoring 45 a game too, which they're also not. So I just don't know. Like looking at the season, we were never going to be good. Even if we beat Oregon, I still think that we were like. I think that we wouldn't have lost the games to UCLA and Northwestern. But I think, like, even if everybody was healthy,
yeah, I get what you're saying.
I think we still get splattered by Ohio State, and then I think that we get splattered again.
So your picks aren't actually real. This is a bit. You didn't actually think we were going to win last week.
No, of course
not. Or
not.
you only okay. I'm just making sure. I don't know sometimes because like
Justin looked over at me. I think it was this third quarter when Sane found Carnell Tate on the 45-yard post, and as soon as he threw it, Justin was probably 4 inches because we were crammed there. Justin's head dropped before Carnell Tate even broke into the post because
you just knew
there was no safety. The closest safety was in Athens, Ohio. The closest corner was over in Zanesville. It was
well, and this is
demoralized our friend Garrett, but I think I have something to demoralize us even more. I was digging through the archives, and then
after you say this, Mike, I have another thing to demoralize us. So you go ahead first, and then I have one more thing on top of it.
So this is from the Straight from the Crest group. We have in terms of audio producer, statistician, there's about 22 of us in here, and one of the people, I'm not going to name any names. This was a text on January 10th following the season ender last year. This person, who will remain anonymous, said, "Keep the running backs. With Reynolds at tight end, there shouldn't be a massive dropout. Honestly, the passing game can't get worse, and the O-line will still be solid. It was honestly underwhelming all season. I could see the O-line being better." Garrett, your turn.
Yeah, so that was me who said that. And it kind of plays into this, that to your point. How much of last season was just full-blown smoke and mirrors? It really was. Like, this team was never a national championship contender this year. And we just 100% had the stars align in like 4 games we could have lost in another season. Bowling Green, I mean, we forget about Bowling Green. Like, apparently that wasn't a fluke. Wisconsin, they throw a horrible pick 6. Otherwise, who knows what happens. The USC game, Minnesota, like, we lucked out there and then had the easiest draw of anybody will ever have in the playoff, ever. And then played 3 teams with a pulse last year and, gagged in all of them. So we were just like so set up. Like, it was as painful as it could have been. And so, I could have done with all of this being advanced 6 months in advance, where it's like, I wish we would have just went 7-5 last year. And then we could have no one would have been shocked at what happened with Franklin. We wouldn't have this narrative that we're big meanies. Penn State's a big mean school because they fired their coach who went to the college football playoff last year. Sorry, I'm ranting now and I'm rambling, but like, we were never that good. It was smoke and mirrors. And like, I hate to say it, but it is what it is. And so I can't, like I said, I can't be in here anymore. I can't be on this podcast unless we're doing coaching searches because I'm just going to be negative. I'm sorry to everybody. I'm sorry to Beck. I know Beck's a sensitive guy. It hurts his feelings. Like, I'm sorry. It's just
Well, I'll bring some light to the podcast because I'm about to drop the hottest take ever. You guys both have them losing. Just hear me out here.
All right, let's hear it.
Oh my gosh.
Penn State's going to win Saturday. And here's why. It's not a laughing matter. You can act cold takes exposed all you want. Penn State's going to beat Indiana. If you watch the Iowa game, they should have beaten Iowa, right? On the road, first time ever with Grunk. Yeah, they should have won. They should have won that game, okay? That's fine. Throw that out. The next game, who do they go to? Ohio State. What's that? I'm not talking about the second half here. My sample size is only to halftime. What'd they do? They forced turnovers, and they had 3 good plays in the first half. If they could replicate that and do more at home and hold this team to 23, 24 points, I see a path. I really do. I saw the resurgence of Nick Singleton last week. I saw a defense that gave a shit last week compared to what they were letting Gronowski run all over him. They were walked on from a physicality standpoint, but I think the wide receivers of Ohio State are that much better than Indiana. And Indiana has a great receiving core. They have a solid receiving core with Cooper. And Mendoza is a great athlete, but he doesn't have the arm Julian Sain has. So I'm taking Penn State to win this game. And I believe that. I think if you look at Penn State right now where it's at, there's nothing that tells you they should win this game. But I have a weird feeling. I didn't think they were going to win last week. I really didn't. But something about being at home, I think, could give a spark to this team the rest of the way out. And I think they end up in a bowl game after they beat Indiana. So that's probably the hottest take I've ever dropped on this show because I am very neutral and I don't go, I'll pick Penn State in a close game, but I think this is a weekend Penn State wins, and I think they find a way to do it.
So I think Audrey Snyder tweeted a couple hours ago that it was the lowest energy practice they have ever seen in their time watching Penn State football in the open media part of the practice.
Mikey, I think that they're going to walk into the stadium and we're going to have 80,000 people there. I know you said you think people are going to show. I don't think people are going to show up. Like, I'm genuinely concerned that stadium is going to look horrible, and we're going to have like 80,000 people in there.
Do you know how many people
Is it on
were in
Fox,
the LA
too?
Coliseum this year when UCLA beat Penn State as a 24-point underdog?
79, 80, 81.
Probably less.
Total. Yeah. No,
Like 60.
I'm not saying people total.
Oh.
Yeah. No, it was like
80
25,000. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating.
Yeah, but so UCLA doesn't ever have fans. Like it's not like a
This is
shocking
what's-
thing to look up. And
Are you
see
guys
it.
going to the
I'll see
game?
it.
Mike, are you
Dude,
going to the game?
I'm not going to the game. Like
Mike will be there. So he won't have to listen to Gus Johnson. Gus Johnson is he's also going to have record low energy. He's going to be like, touchdown Penn State, not Penn. I don't even know if we'll score. Touchdown Indiana, and he won't even have his decibels won't even get above 10. But what's going to happen is I'm going to watch the game and listen to Joel Klatt be like, man, look how far this has fallen in 7 weeks. This environment. Remember what it looked like against Oregon. Now nobody's here. Like, I hope you're right, Mikey. If it was a night game, I could see them just finding a way to conjure up enough energy to just at least back is.
Dude, I can't see my face unless I'm talking.
They can't. I know. Which I was about to say. Can you say something? Because you're just like shaking. Beck's shaking his head. No.
That was the face that I gave.
Yeah. I can't see it. I could, of the two teams, I could see it with Ohio State because there's just like I don't know. It would have just made perfect sense that this would have been the year. Indiana just is like they're Thanos. They're gonna game their skulls in.
We went a
What's
little
your
long
Are we
there.
predicting, or what's your prediction? Oh, I think we already. Beck and I
Yeah, we already gave our prediction.
What's your number? What's the number?
27-24. Penn State wins on a field goal.
All right.
And I think
this is
Ethan
what
Grunkemeyer throws for 3 touchdowns. That's my prediction.
Has he thrown a touchdown pass yet in the first 2? Can you talk back so we could see your face shake your head again? Because you're making good facial expressions.
So I gave the no shake, but then I was really trying to rack my head around the Iowa game. And he also could have thrown one in he could have thrown one in garbage time against Villanova or someone.
Oh,
so
yeah.
let's consult the fact.
He did
Let's
throw a
consult the
touchdown
statute.
this year.
Yeah.
He threw one against FIU.
I knew I was
Yeah.
going to say no, but then the answer was going to be like a garbage time tutty against one of the teams that we smoked in the beginning.
And then he could have at the end against Ohio State, but we ran the
2 guys
running
in the
back
corner
wheel
against-
route and the fade route, the one where you run it with the players right next to each other, next to the best safety in the country. Really quick, Mikey. We're trying to give the people what they want, entertainment. Can we talk about any rational reason? And it didn't matter in the game. It doesn't matter, but the Caleb Downs overturning of the targeting. Can you guys give literally any reason why they overturned it other than the conference just protecting Ohio State?
Well, I
And I
tell
don't
you
mean
what,
to
you want to
I don't
know
mean to
something
be
damning?
like that, but
You want to know something damning? They didn't show the replay. All of the fans around us,
They all
we
knew.
we were right around a bunch of Ohio State fans. We were on the edge of the Penn State section, the Ohio State section.
Yeah.
And I was chirping the Ohio State fans, so was Mikey. And we're if they're not showing the replay, it's targeting. And so we were fully convinced because they never once did that hit the big board. We were all convinced that it was targeting. And then they wiped it off and we're oh, okay, I guess. I was I don't know why they wouldn't show it. Went home, checked Twitter. I was that is textbook targeting.
The textbook.
He
why
launched
he
and
launched
headbutted him.
with his feet to a
Well,
defensive player with the crown of his helmet
And he's
to the head or neck injured area.
he's shaking his head on the sideline. And the official, you guys couldn't have seen this, you're at the game. The official takes the replay. It was clearly from Chicago or Indianapolis, wherever the office is. He takes it off and he goes, shook his head, what are we doing?
That's bad because
So-
I know from a firsthand experience, it's more than one person in the replay official's ear. So
Right.
it's a group of 4 of them. But yeah, it was abysmal
Yeah.
call, and it was a weird call. And I don't know. I don't know what I really don't know. And there was never an explanation. Usually when something comes out like that, here's what we saw and why we called
Yeah.
it. That never has came out on November 5th. The game was 4 days ago.
Yeah. Can you give your best conspiracy theory as to why?
I think
I think it's probably the most. It's the most
I think Brutus the
realistic
Buckeye
reason.
really had something to do with it.
Okay. Okay.
No, I don't know. It was weird. I don't know.
I've never. It was just the most blatant, obvious. So I just thought that was interesting.
I know I said future Dallas Cowboy, but Caleb Downs is a scumbag, and I don't want him on the team because Jerry Jones would never want a player like that on his team.
What?
Only principal men on the Dallas Cowboys. But we talked a lot today, guys. I appreciate you joining us. Appreciate you listening. Sorry we went over the time. We'll be back next week after Penn State pulls the upset. Take care.